Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. My name is Wes, and I will be your host. Today, we have with us Gavin, who is a CG generalist, and he will be presenting his VFX-focused approach to using Substance Painter and Substance Designer for his procedural texturing of a parametric building. Gavin, welcome, man. Awesome to have you on the stream today.
Hi, Wes. How you doing? Thank you.
Doing well, man. Yeah, I'm really excited to have you jump in and present for us. This is a really cool amount of work you're going to show for us, and some cool workflows and tips. So why don't we just go ahead and start your screen share and just take it away when you're ready.
All right. Yeah, just let me know when you can see it. It's like oh. All right.
All right, good to go, Gavin. Thanks, man.
So obviously I'm Gavin Whelan. I've sort of worked in a number of different fields, medical animation, did a lot of automotive rendering, and then for about the last 7 to 8 years I've been working primarily in VFX for TV. Worked in a bunch of shots. I've been using Substance products for about 5 years. So this was a kind of a project that came together quite nicely. It was for an episode of 911. It was an earthquake, hits LA, and they wanted to show the damage to the W Hotel in Hollywood. So it's a kind of a strangely unrealistic way that the building collapses, but I use Substance Designer and Painter, and sort of I'm going to go over the workflow that I used and try and share with you guys some cool stuff. So I think we have a video to check out of some of the shots. All right, and so I didn't have access to the actual project files, and so I wanted to create kind of a new project and sort of take a lot of the techniques I'd developed for that project and kind of like just add to them and improve upon them, and then use the techniques in a proper parametric workflow to assemble the sort of skyscrapers, assemble the buildings. So I used obviously Substance Designer as the primary tool, 3D Max, TyFlow, and then rendered in V-Ray. And so this was, I used to work at a company called Picture Shop, and when I would look out the window every day, I would see this building, and I was just always looking at it and sort of then seeing all the inside the buildings, all of the detail, all of the window dressing, all of the people inside the buildings, the art on the walls. And so initially you look at it, you think it's a simple structure, but then you're kind of like, it's actually dense with detail. So I was like, I'm gonna make that in Substance. So here's some of the first kind of the main material rendered in Substance Designer. So you can see the displacement and kind of just the initial kind of look. Then that's the corner facade. So it's based on the same pattern, sort of same layout. And then here's a test render of the building itself. So I've got some of the detail on the inside of the buildings and some of the art on the walls, etc., and tried to kind of recreate the lighting. So just it's just Google scan in the background to kind of help me place it in the world. So here's another render of so like a picted camera angle of the side of the building, so you can see in sort of in daytime, and you can see all the stuff on the inside of the building, the window dressing, and there's a couple of people inside. I actually got those off Sketchfab. They're little scans, and sort of books stacked and all this kind of stuff. So that's the kind of the daytime render. And here's just kind of an alternate version. So it's actually taking the corner facade and then just switching it out for that main primary facade. More glass, you kind of see into the buildings a little bit more, and then you can see the kind of the reflection of the real building across the way. So then there's the nighttime. It's back to the main facade. It's kind of like the nighttime version. So the way I wanted to have a proper kind of nighttime setup. So when you change the exposure, if you by just changing from like a very high f-stop to a low f-stop, that just all the nighttime lighting would just appear. Obviously, and change the time of day. So you change it from, you know, mid-afternoon to kind of, you know, sort of 10 o'clock at night, that all of that detail would just appear without animating any lights or turning on any lights. So I wanted to have an object to kind of reflect. It's sort of this thing just kind of took legs. This project sort of took legs. So this helicopter, I had this asset of I think it's a Sea King helicopter. It's like Marine One, and so I wanted to test out the new UDIM, painting across UDIM in Painter. So started painting this thing. It just kind of, I didn't really know how to paint it, so it was like, it's for the Substance demo, so I just started, you know, now it's a Substance helicopter. So, and then if you see these guys, these are those little Sketchfab guys, just kind of as reference. You can see these guys in the front. They're in focus right now. The camera is, if you look at the thing here, the camera, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's f16. So they're perfectly in focus. Now by switching just those two settings, to change it to 10 o'clock at night, and you change the f-stop to 222. Now you can see all the lights on the, so those lights are actually on here. You just can't see them because of the exposure, and so you switch it to here, and then those guys go out of focus because it's kind of a correct setting, correct depth of field. And so then bringing that helicopter back, just kind of some test renders with the helicopter in the scene, kind of flying in front of the buildings. It's very dangerous, I know, but looks kind of cool. Here's those kinds of things, the same camera angle, obviously, but with the switched out kind of facade. Then this is one at night, which looks kind of cool. So you're just switching. The only things that are changing, the only parameters that are changing between these two renders are the exposure and the f-stop. And so all that detail just sort of appears as you switch when you switch those two parameters from day to night.
And that's incredible, Gavin. That change. Yeah, and it also like just plays up to the whole premise of the scene being physically correct, using physically correct lighting with materials that interact appropriately as well.
Yeah, it's like, I actually did a lot of these renders just last night. It just sort of worked. Like, I was a little bit surprised myself, because usually, you know, that's when things go wrong, is when you're trying to do the final things. So this was one of the important things, and I'll show, there's a video I'll show in a little bit, was the window warp. My wife is telling me warble is not a real word, but I don't know what the technical term for the warp in the windows is, so I was calling it window warble.
I like warble there. That's good.
Okay, well,
yeah, let's do it.
It's set in stone. It's official. It's a window warble.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then there's just another, like, I wanted to, yeah, just kind of have all that kind of reflection. This is a good one because you can see kind of like it feel like the randomization. I was really happy with the way some of the randomization came on the windows and on the art on the walls and the computer screens, and it kind of looks like sort of makes it look like kind of a creative office. Yeah, so this render doesn't have any of the people in here, but again, you can see there's that kind of nice sort of subtle depth of field on the helicopter here because it's F2, and it's all in the scene. It's and then we have a video of the again. Before you play this, apologies for the kind of low quality renders. I don't have a render farm, so some of these renders are a little bit noisy, and they're really just test renders. I just wanted to share.
Oh, hey, Gavin, while we're
Yeah.
speaking of renders, what renderer are you using?
I'm using V-Ray 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's enjoying using that. But ultimately, this will all work in nearly any render. Like it's all PBR. You could probably get some pretty fantastic renders in the Unreal Engine if you were to bring in all the assets and just assemble all the materials. All the materials can be assembled in the exact same way in pretty much any application. So this is the helicopter, just getting a few different turnarounds to get the, and then that's kind of you can see the day to night transition and the kind of the weird camera move. And then I just wanted to sort of try and get that kind of sense of what the reflection of the helicopter would look like. Kind of raking across those windows, and you see that the reflection kind of breaking up, and it was kind of something I was just really important to nail down and kind of get right.
Yeah, these shots are awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to add. One thing I wanted to do is like almost it would be cool to see the windows rattle, right? So if you saw a helicopter outside a window like that, the windows would be rattling. It would have been cool to see a kind of that effect on the windows, but I didn't have time.
Yeah, which is always the case, right? Never enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the video's still playing. Do you want to drop out of that? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
There we go. It's coming over now.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're back on your presentation slide.
Okay, so this was just kind of going into it's all the art's done. So I'm just back into some of the my inspiration for my kind of reference. That image up on the top left, that was my view out the window every day from the picture shop office. It's ghost now. So, and again, you're looking at it, the time of day would change. You'd sort of, as you're coming back from lunch, you would look one way. You would, you're going in the evening, suddenly you see all this detail. And I would just sort of weirdly sort of obsess about it, how I was going to make, how I could do this in Substance Designer. It's going to look cool. And then the image below, I took this photograph in downtown LA like a number of years ago. But this image really stood out to me because if you look at the surface of this building, it's so simple. It's just if you were to model that, you'd say, okay, it's just a bunch of polygons with a kind of a bevel or a chamfer on the edges, and it's just super simple. But if you look at the complexity of the reflection, the way the reflection breaks up, one thing that always bugged me when you see CG buildings in CG, if the windows don't break up the reflection like this, it just looks completely fake. It just doesn't work. And the part of the problem is if you model the building first and you have this full, really high res building, and then you need to do the window warble after you have the model of the building. Usually there's it's a sort of a gag. Someone puts like a noise map, a Perlin noise map into and sort of spreads it across the windows, and it sort of breaks it up a bit. But it's sort of a bit of a hack, and it's not a properly curated effect. When you see this, you see how this image, how sort of complex that breakup it is, and you want to be able to have a full kind of control over the way that reflection looks. And what I love as well is each window is like slightly different. Like there's this kind of like 3-4% variation in like the color, like how over time the windows will, I guess it's like an ultraviolet protection thing that on the windows to make them look more metallic. And then you're seeing inside the windows as it goes into kind of evening time, all the lights start to come on, and you can see that sort of jewel thing and just kind of how detailed it looks. And then the reflection of the building across the way, just a cool image. And then just my reference here, sorry, I'm blathering on. Some of the reference of photographs I took of the building in just in Burbank to get the details. And so then just some of the reference of the helicopter. This was kind of, I consider that helicopter kind of unfinished, but I wanted to kind of get a lot of the grungy detail, that kind of surface detail and the rivets and all that kind of stuff. But this was that's why I have the kind of that weird nose thing. I don't know what most of the things do on these helicopters, but they usually look pretty cool. And then this is just a slide of just generally some of the stuff that I'm really interested in is like just the buildings like this. Is this kind of like just dense with detail, and kind of how you figure out those patterns, like sort of unlock the puzzle, so to speak, and sort of create those randomizations, but maintain a really high level of realism. So always the challenge. And then, so for this project, the Substance as my primary tool. I wanted it to be photoreal. I wanted to create a proper parametric modeling system, which I did with TyFlow and 3D Studio Max. And I wanted the assets to be FX ready. So if you don't know what that means, it means that all the models should have no holes. That if you put these assets, these buildings into a destruction system, let's say if you wanted to destroy the building or blow it up, that the geo would all be really clean, and your effects artists will be happy with what you give them. And then a proper kind of day-night solution, and then customization, versatility, reusability, that you can kind of go back and forth and sort of figure out different just being able to experiment and switch it out to, if you from a skyscraper into one of these, maybe one of these kind of Hong Kong style buildings. So we'll see, that's in the future. So one of the things is that people kind of look at these buildings and they think they're kind of simple, but they're actually quite, when you break them down, they're actually quite complex. You have lots of different facades. You have the main facade, you have a corner, you have the top corner, you have the top main facade, you have the corner bottom. So on this building, you've like, if you were to actually look at the whole building, there's probably, maybe 10 more than 10 different kind of materials, let's say. But they will all, these are the in Substance, the materials on the right side. And so for this, like I wanted to, and then the interior of the offices. So it was also really important to nail. So it's like walls, interior walls, ceiling lights, floors, blinds, wall art, doors, window dressing, screens and monitors, lamps, and then just random office personalizations. So
that's so much stuff as well, Gavin. Because and I think and I'll dip into a question just really quick because it relates.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the questions is the inside of the building. Is it using like parallax mapping, or is that actual real geo? I think you actually modeled it, right?
It's a kind of, I'll show you. It is real geo, but it's basically, they're just projections. They're just displacements. And I can show you sort of, and again, all done in Substance Designer. So, so I'm basically taking things like adding a displacement, and then adding a a symmetry to it. So then it gets depth. So you actually then have proper geometry. Now, if you were to go around the side, look up really closely and go around the side of that geometry, you'd have stretched, stretched textures. But at this level, you just don't see it, and it's just it's
super convincing at the level, like you said, where the camera shows it. Yeah. So
yeah.
sorry,
So
man. I didn't want to derail you too much.
No, it's okay.
on your thought process, but yeah, that's just, man, it's so much data that you're pushing through in this project.
It's you'll see on the, maybe they'll probably like the interior slide. There's kind of a gag, like some of the stuff almost comes for free if you set it up right. But I want to quickly go over the different. So I set up, it's like 4 different materials for to assemble it. So if you can see here in this on the bottom left, I have like the interior, the main building, the blinds, the window dressing, and the furniture. So I'm exporting an SBSAR file into and opening it up in Painter, just to swatch. So it's in Painter. There's no bakes. It's just a bunch of planes. But then what that does is it allows you to just assemble all the materials you're going to use. And then if there's problems, it's really easy to kind of figure out that you can go back and forth. You can update the material. So go back to designer, make tweaks, fix the outputs, and then you update the material. And then it's all presets. So all of those, so it's the arrows going from the Burbank building. That material is making all those different surfaces, if that makes sense. And so then they get it all exported at 8K with a bunch of different. So I'm exporting like a refraction map, masks, different. You can export like, I mean, you name it, like masks for the brick, masks for the window frames. I mean, however you want to set it. I can show in Designer in a bit. Then the modeling is extraordinarily simple. I'm just cutting the geo, like loading the material onto the geo, and then just putting cuts where the where the glass meets the brick and whatnot, and then just giving it an extrusion. And then each of those little, stop me here, Wes, if it doesn't make sense. Each of those little blocks, so I have 12 in that, the way I did this project. There's 12 little windows, and each one gets kind of offset by, at the top level, because it's 1, 2, 3 at the top, it'll be, each one will get offset by 0.333333333. And then the ones down, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're offset by 0.25. So all of those 12 little windows exist on the same UV plane. And then so it goes into tie flow, so assemble the building. Those get scattered around the building in the tie flow system. And then from there, you make the building, and then you render it. So, and then
now you're using, sorry, Gavin. So you're in 3ds Max for your workflow. Is TieFlow like a plugin for Max, or I'm sorry, I'm not actually familiar
TieFlow is that's a whole. I mean, TieFlow is amazing. If you're using 3D Studio Max and you're not using TieFlow, you need to be. This one guy, Tyson Ibel, he made this plugin as a replacement for particle flow in 3D Studio Max, and it's maybe the best plugin ever made. So wow. There's I don't mince words. Yeah, it's really great plugin. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a really fantastic plugin, and most people are using it for effects, but I've been using it for basically a replacement for Railclone and Forest Pack. If you use 3D Max, you probably know what those plugins are. So it'll basically do both those things, but it's a little bit more open, so you can you just have a bit more freedom. For me anyway, you just have more freedom to experiment and do it the way you want. So I'm trying to move forward fast. So this is just my messy graph for the main building. And so you can see I've exported the my exposed parameters, and then presets. I set up like all the presets, to get all the main facades. I set up presets. So in Painter, I can just go and switch on those different presets, and then and I get the materials. But it was important. I just wanted to. It was kind of my challenge was to try and get all of the facades and have them be available from the same material. And then you can see here, this is always difficult. If you use Substance Designer, you'll understand. Sometimes you're trying to create a material, and it seems like so simple, but trying to break down that, you're trying to like almost, it's sort of like reverse engineering a puzzle, or like, and I was trying to break down that pattern, and if I could break down that pattern, and it would work for all of the building facades. So it's sort of a procedural way. It is a proper procedural way to do it. You could do it very linear and just put those pieces in manually, but I wanted it to all work within the kind of grid. Does that make sense? So you can see some of the kind of progression here to get it from here to the final render, how I assembled it. Anyway, so then here was this warble image, which is awesome. And then I should have had a better image for this. I'm using flood fill, extensive use of flood fill, and then the flood fill, the kind of the texture fill, flood fill node, excuse me, to give that bulge, to give the sort of the window bulge, and you've very kind of fine control over the warble, so that then I can show it in Designer in a little bit. And then so then I have like the interior. So you can see the way I've set this up is almost like a kind of a cubic map approach, but I've like 12 ceilings, 12 floors, and 12 walls, and then each of those get scattered within the system. Each of those get all sort of scattered into the system. So that's the interior walls. On the right there, you can see the system in TyFlow, where all of those different walls are getting scattered, randomized. So there's like 1,000, I did the math, 1,728 possible offices. And then obviously as you bring in different furniture, and ultimately you get into kind of probably like millions of possibilities. You'll still see the same background in a lot of the offices, but that's kind of just the thinking behind it. This is the window dress. So someone's asked about this. The window dressing, it was like this is little projections. I'm using the height extrude node in Designer. The main kind of things were like cups and bottles, ornaments, picture frames, and books. So you can see how I assembled them in this kind of, you can see the height map here. And then in this slide down here on the bottom left, I just created these strips and then just gave it like a bunch of subdivisions, and then just displaced it outwards, and then split them into little strips, and then place those strips within the system, and then they just get randomized across the throughout the system on the window, on the window sills. So there's actually you can kind of see there's actually the Substance logo is in there.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit meta. And then this is probably the simplest of all the materials, is just the blinds. But I just wanted to give them there's a little bit of displacement on them, but it was important to kind of, and then they're just randomized, like the height of those are just kind of randomized within the system. And yeah, this is the simplest one. And then there's the furniture. This one was a little bit trickier, but it came out pretty cool. So I've like the three main things were the monitors, standing lamps, and desks. And so it's kind of a gag, right? So I'm kind of putting them in as objects. So some of the desks, if you were to see them in the office, it would look like the desk is like at an angle, right? So you know, if you put a ball on the desk, it would just roll off. But it was sort of helps give this kind of randomization, or to give that sort of level of extrusion. So I did the same thing here. You can see down in Max, my little setup in 3D Max, where I'm giving it the turbo smooth, displacing it. I'm deleting all of the, like, it's like you take the opacity map and you use that to select all of the useless geo, and then you give it a symmetry. And so you can see there my kind of little fake furniture. And then I have an image on, they're just planes kind of like on gradients, to give a bunch of different monitors kind of at different angles. And they kind of, you can see them in the sort of in this, it's just this grab of the office in here. And so those little objects get split up and then again just scattered into the scene. And
Gavin,
then,
this is so incredible, man.
okay.
I mean, I'm looking at this going, I can't believe what he's doing. This is so cool, man. So it's like
Thank
you're
you.
like, yeah, using Designer to do some of the modeling, and then you're like building the height maps, and then you're displacing.
Yeah.
I mean, super amazing, man. This
Oh,
is so
thank
cool.
you. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so there's, for a hero, right? Say if you needed to do it hero, say there was a shot kind of zooming right up, and you're going in, and there's something in the office. You have to go in the office. You'd have to model it properly, right? You'd have to do a kind of a hero building or a hero office, and actually properly model out the whole office. But at this angle, at this level, it really works, you know. And then you have full control. Like one thing is really important, is just getting the pivots right, having control over the pivots, and the scale of the objects. And you know, when you're trying to bring in assets like a bunch of desk assets, like there's art, you can get a bunch of arch viz, you can get, like, all the materials are separated, you're putting textures everywhere, you end up with like just so much stuff that's sort of different scales. Everything has to be collapsed and reset and centered, and the pivots moved. It's just a lot of work, and this was just, it's a good, anyway. Again, this is back to Substance. Substance Painter. The whole thing is set up as a kind of a swatch in Substance Painter, and so I've set up like just it's literally like an object that I've made in Max, which is just a bunch of planes with a multi-sub material. So you can see all the materials in Painter with the presets, and I have the blinds and the interior and the things here, and then those get set up in a multi-sub back in Max, and you can see how those get sort of split off. That, like, on the bottom right there, that's just material ID 2. It's the corner, and again, very very clean, simple geometry, and essentially it's just a projection map, right? There's actually no, like, it's got stretched textures at the side of that geometry, which if you were to go right up to it, it would, but you generally never, you don't. Oh, so I think I was going to go into the yeah, I don't know if there was something in me stop sharing this, if it was going to go into
Yeah. Did you want to jump right into Designer?
Into design? Yeah, into Designer. Yeah. So here's my Designer. Yeah. So this is one thing I wanted to share. Like, again, this is so simple, but it was kind of allowed a level of control and predictability when then I created this tool.
Gavin, I don't know if you can say the word simple when you're talking about this project.
Well,
I'm just kidding, man. It looks awesome.
So before this, I would choose colors. You say when you're making your height map in Substance Designer, you tend to sort of choose grays, and kind of arbitrarily, like, and I created this tool. It's just zero, like it's just grays 0 to 1. So it's like obviously 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, right? So that is a simple tool. And then that meant that anytime I was choosing colors, I was always able to select them later on within the graph. So I use I don't know if you use it. There's a node called Height Slice. Oh, God, I can't think of the name of the guy that makes it. It's really awesome. It just allows you to have this very, very fine control over this is the Height Slice node. So you can Michael Cooper. You can just have this very fine control over the selection of that color, of that grayscale value. So here I'm selecting the window frame. So the window frame is 0.4, and what's the window mask is, it's 0.299. So it's actually 0.3, and that's kind of how seems a little bit boring, but this was here. This is probably like the most procedural part of it. So if you can see here, like these are not lined up properly. The way I've sort of scaled these, I'm just manually scaling these into the correct positions. But then that object, that sort of this shape or this thing that I've made here, which it's not lined up correctly here, it gets input into a tile sampler. And then when you put it into the tile sampler, it lines up correctly. So it properly lines it up and gives you the correct grid breakup, right? So it makes it mathematical. And then the same with here. This was like a random one, which allowed me to get the break up the kind of the smaller bricks. So the tool I made here, it's again super simple tool. It's called Super Scale. It'll just take that image, this image here, and here I should do this there, right? So you can see the final thing, and it'll just scale it, right? So it'll just take this and just scale it that way, and then as you go further into the thing, you can start taking those different parts of it. So you can make a selection of these different pieces. And again, this is the height slice. So then again, this is the window, so it's 0.3. So it's sort of predictable. And again, it took me a while to kind of just get it right. I'm kind of going through, starting to break down the pattern, and so we can continue along here using this the edge detect. Again, 2 edge detects, sort of go through here again using my super scale thing, sort of starting to slowly kind of break out these little shapes going through. Then you get this going through here. Then there's so then I have to be kind of careful with the bevel, so I'm adding like some sort of bevel onto the surface of the bricks. It was a question whether I do that bevel here or after the main tile. So here, then sort of adding the window frame here. So I'm adding the window frame based on another edge detect. And then what's this? So then I have to scale it. So getting the right scale. So you can see here the window is at the top of the thing, of the image here. So I'm adding a a safe transform. So then it just puts the window, centers it. So it's just tiling. So it just centers it, and then instead of these 2 pieces at the edges, it means that is now just at the left side of the image. And so then that's it. There's a switch node here. So it's kind of like, so then this is going to give me the window, the corners. So there's all the brick at the top of the building. There's a few different versions of the thing here. And then this goes into the final, like this is like one of the main things. Is pretty straightforward tile. So again, 3x4, and then I have this is the window warble, the window warp. It's called warble now. This was pretty cool. So that's taking this. So I'm doing just so people know what I'm doing. I'm basically taking the adding a edge detect node, then the flood fill, and then from the flood fill, it's this one here, is it? From the flood fill, getting these different flood fill nodes, and then this one just kind of getting the right warp. And again, I kind of tried as best as I could to kind of say curate the material, so tested it to kind of get the right breakup, and adding a little bit of noise into it as well. Then that just gets turned into a normal map. I didn't want to put this in the height map, so it just gets converted into a normal map, and then it is just added on top. So there's, let's see, is that the, yeah, it's just sort of added on top of the main, onto my main kind of height thing here. And that's kind of what gives that sort of that window warble and allows it to, let me switch to, so I'm a little bit all over the place. I'm going to switch to the corner facade. So this is a thing as well. So if I go into the preview here, you can see the way I set up these preview. Yeah, so this is set up these presets. So main facade and then corner facade. So then that will switch to the, so that was, yeah, so you can see it here when there's more glass. How that window warble is sort of breaking up. And yeah, you can see that, see the way the panels of glass kind of like they sort of offset the reflection in a kind of a cool way. Like again, there'd always be back and forth. If this was in a shot, the supervisor would probably ask you to change it, but at least here you have this kind of very, very fine control over it. I'm also looking at this at 2K, so at 4K there's more detail, more of that detail will kind of come through.
Yeah.
And then I'm using the
use of the presets too. I like that, because we added the capability to just make the presets right in Designer, so it's really cool way to switch it around like that.
Yeah, like that. Some of those actually it improved as well. That's a feature that's kind of improved. It was a little bit weird to use at the beginning. And then some of the stuff. I mean, some of these presets again. People who use Designer will know that you can have too many exposed parameters, and sometimes you just get lost in all the parameters. So I tend to end up with too many. These ones here, I don't think I haven't really used at all. So, but again, this is what's cool, is that you can set up all these parameters, and then you can experiment. You can bring these materials. You can do it here, but it's cool to do them in when you set it up in Paint or as a swatch. Then you can really experiment with some of the different settings. So the window grime, make the windows really grimy.
Yeah, I think we need to see if we can get Nicholas to build for his next node a window warble node.
Yeah. It'd be called warble.
Yeah,
definitely
called
it has to warble. Be warble.
Yeah.
So that's kind of let's see. I mean, for the color, I don't. Wes, I don't know if there's anything in this graph that you wanted me to show. I suppose one thing that's kind of important to note as well, especially for VFX, is that ability to export all of the different channels, all these additional channels. So I'm setting all these up: window mask, brick mask, frame. And those can all get Those can all get set up in a as additional channels in Substance Painter, and the other one I did as well is because it go in the way different renders, the way V-Ray works is if you're to do glass, if it's glass, the diffuse color has to be black or really dark. But a lot of other renders like Arnold or just other renders, they need, if it's glass and it's reflective, it needs to be white, if that makes sense. So I set up a different channel to do that, right? So that's the way it would look in V-Ray. If it were a different renderer, it would look like that, if that makes sense. So if I apply this to my base color, it'll kind of, so now I kind of lose the refractive value. So I want to have those, to output those two. So I'm switching that. I'm switching that in Substance Painter specifically for V-Ray, but you can output both versions. So yeah, so then I'll go into is there any of the materials, the window dressing, the furniture that you wanted, or the interior, was there?
Yeah, I mean, just whatever you think would be the most interesting part. Like, I
I'll
think
go
maybe
into
the interior. Yeah, I think
I'll show the
would be
interior
cool.
quickly. Again, the building is quite, it's a bit more organized. This is a spaghetti. The people who know me, they see these graphs and they're just like, that's a goddamn mess. So this is right now in a bit of a messy state. But so the way this was broken up was, again, it's in a 3x3 grid to get the way the floors break up. So the top is going to be the ceiling, the middle is the walls, and then the bottom is the grounds. And that gets broken into another. So it's going to have, let's see what to do. It was just 2x2, right? So I just have 4 different tiles, and then that is then using my super scale here. So I'm using this to, these are the doors. I have a slider for corporate art. So again, this is, the doors are, what's this? So yeah, so I'm setting this with the mask. So the doors hold out the art, so you don't generally, you're seeing it a little bit where I didn't want the art to just go over the doors. So you have these little images. So this is the art on the walls, and then I put clocks. Seem to be something that you see in offices. And then this is the image. So you see this image here. This is just an image actually from my slides. It's just my PureRef file, which is the reference of the building, and then that just gets using a save transform, and then that's what you see in the where is it? So that's the art on the walls there, and then it gets a, let's see, just go through this. I think it gets a frame somewhere. Yeah, so then it gets a frame. So now you see that this the art on the walls will get a frame, and then like I'm splitting this up so that the art on the walls there as well, so you can see it there. So see it, so that it's glass, right? So one of the things is to try and get, if I got it, good. If I didn't, it's fine. You see the way the window frames, or sorry, the art on the walls is glass, right? So it's reflective.
Yeah.
So that if you get some tracking kind of so interior reflections of the buildings, which would look kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really
and
cool.
Then I think I have this working. So I'm just turning the exposure right down. So that's my emissive map. So these are kind of again, based on reference, I set up a it's my lights here. I set up, kind of made this shape, and then have a few different versions of this light, so it's just not the same pattern in each office. So and then that gets, there's these kind of lights, then that gets split out. So now that's the pattern of the lights on the ceilings, and then that gets sort of split into different. It gets split down. So I'm making it basically. I think I'm using the height slice. I use that tool all the time. This levels and edge detect and height slice. Excuse me. So I'm using the height slice to select those these little pieces here, and then those get sort of passed down into the thing here. I've added a little bit of blur, like a little bit of bloom on the nodes, and then I'm what's this? Upping the exposure. And then what am I blending? I'm doing here. I think this might be a switch. It's a blend. And then what's cool is because it's all 30. My file is all of these are 32-bit. Should be 32-bit. That it will actually, when it comes into Max, it's an HDRI.
Awesome. I was getting ready to ask, if that's what you're. Yeah, that's awesome.
But and then I did a couple of different. I output these separately so that I would have sort of control. So if you see that, right, this was a kind of an interesting one that I think kind of works. That is my so that's the some of these have I think I can apply this. So this is all of my emissive maps kind of comped together. I split them up so that I would have control over them back in Max, so that I could, if I wanted the lights to be brighter, the wall lights to be brighter, I could have control over that. And that's the monitors, so you can see some of those window frames, right? They're basically, I'm just pretending that some of the pictures on the walls are actually TV screens, and this was something like, so I downloaded these are IES lights, which is an image I took found on Google Images, and then I'm splitting these into the different IES shapes, and then those are getting put into a tile map. Again, same kind of pattern. So you see those IES lights are getting sort of scattered across to create that, right? So you can see I'm sort of mixing that with I'm mixing that with the AO somewhere, and here, where is it? Must be this one. To kind of like, so when I apply that emissive map, it'll track along with the geo or the normal maps and everything. So it'll kind of it's a little bit more realism. So that's kind of that. Sorry, I'm kind of like a little bit all over the place with this. Bring the exposure back up on that, so you can see just the different lights. And so that's that. The window dressing is simpler thing. I'll show you kind of like the way some of the little nodes. So I'm using these little let's see. There's like 4, something like that. Again, here's this. I'm just using a few different tile map, tile sampler for different kind of books. So these are the different stack books, and these get input into again the height extrude node, and those then get you've these different versions of this. What's this one here that's going in here? Yeah. Then you have, so you see here, like you have books essentially, right? So books along the surface. This one was the, so one thing you'd see a lot in the offices is the picture frames. So you have, this is really simple. It's just a gradient, and you just kind of make the gradient like slightly brighter at the top, so it looks like it's leaning against the window. And then you sort of assemble them together, and you get that. I think I'm using that's multiply. I'm using lighten, right? So lighten will kind of like, it'll almost make them kind of boolean those objects together. And then you can see the my little setup here. So I'll show you kind of some of the color is just it's just sort of a gag. I'm just, you know, taking that color and applying it really just on top. Yeah, I just did this really fast. It's sort of to try and get something out. And yeah, so you can see kind of some of the color of that stuff. So it's not like correct. It's not they're not correctly textured, right? And then you have, I'm adding a little bit of what's this, metal. So some of the I just noticed a mistake. But so making them kind of metal, they shouldn't be. But that's kind of how that gets. That's sort of what the material will look like with the opacity map and displacement and everything. So,
it's incredible.
And then the furniture. This was my last one to do. So the one thing that actually came out pretty cool, and I was sort of I'll have to wait for it to load here.
Yeah, Gavin, let's take a quick look through this one, and then we can move over to the painter so that we keep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
keeping an eye on the schedule too.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So quickly, you can see the sort of the layout of the thing was this right here. So I'm just taking a bunch of planes. You see this gradient from left to right. So then that gradient just gets scattered with this tile sampler. Then I'm taking it, moving up a bit. I'm taking an edge detect, laying that edge detect back over the surface. So you get this now. This is my displacement. And then I'm using that, the interior part of that, to mask in this, right? So it's the same image again. It's this sort of same thing of the images. And then those are then getting applied to the, mixed in with the lamps. And that's what the monitors are. So you can see the, I'll just turn on the displacement on this quickly so you can see it. The same kind of thing with the desk. So I'm just giving it, trying to kind of give it, oh God, it's thinking. But that's essentially what you see within the offices. So yeah, anyway, so you saw in the slide anyway, what I was,
yeah, so that,
and then that just gets extruded. So yeah, I can, do you want me to jump over to Painter?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Gavin, I don't mean to rush
no, that's
on
okay.
that. This is super fascinating. Yeah. I just want you to have time for what you're going to show in Painter as well.
No, that's okay. So this was like the sort of this part of the project kind of took legs. I wanted an object. I just wanted something to reflect in the windows. So I had an old model of was it a Sikorsky Seek? It's basically Marine One, and So I retextured it. I split it into 5 different UDIM tiles, so you can see them there. And I just wanted to test out the painting across UDIM tiles, and I can, you know, safely say it works awesome. It really does. It's like just super fast and responsive, and I'm actually surprised at how well it worked. I thought it would be kind of slow, but it works really awesome.
Good to hear.
So
awesome.
yeah, so yeah, and again, Substance helicopter, maybe a little bit, but yeah. So I want to kind of get that warble on the surface of the you know, the different paint layers and that kind of thing. And then I used a lot of to get that. I'm using a lot of anchor points. So I think, I don't know if I see them here. I think that thing is turned off. So yeah, so I'm using the anchor points to make selections of the rivets. The rivets are coming from a, sorry, to show you the, I'm exporting the this is my, like the material ID pass coming from 3D Studio Max. So the rivets are, I actually did the rivets in TyFlow as well. You just make it, convert some of the geometry, some of the lines into splines, and then scatter little circles on the things, and then they become they get baked in. But then I'm using those to kind of hold out the panel bulge. So I think I have panel bulge is like one of the first nodes on here. This is it did get start to get a little bit slow trying to turn on and off some of the layers, but I you know, tried to work in a lot of that kind of grime, that really kind of sort of subtle grime in the thing. And now this is at 2K, so if you imagine when this gets rendered, it's 16 times the resolution what you see here. And then I output lots of channels for this. So there's the transmissive, refractive, and then the other, oh yeah, so reflect. Again, this is a V-Ray thing to do that UV filter correctly. I needed to do a few kind of things to create this, that pass. And then you can see some of the, again, I'm using the anchor points, using the rivets. The rivets are kind of really important. Like they can just, they expand, they drive so much detail within it. You can see in here kind of like this area here where you've kind of dust and just kind of more breakup from the where the rivets are, and then sort of where they aren't. And then again, some of this is, I didn't get enough time to put all of the panels, kind of just painting in those kind of normal panels. But yeah, that's kind of that's that. And yeah, I just want to have a variation in that, so you can see kind of the variation in the roughness, so that you would see that, hopefully see that variation within the again, I was trying to get just an object that would reflect really cool in the windows, and it sort of took legs.
Yeah, you can see a lot of detail in the roughness and the way it breaks up the reflection. It's so nice. Yeah, really clean, even at 2K.
Yeah, it looks good at 2K. Yeah, I'm surprised as well. Yeah, I wanted to do another. There was another like level I wanted to get to, but I sort of just ran out of time, which is like all of the using particles to kind of like do all of the you know, the rain wash, the liquid wear and tear that you see on sort of this type of aircraft. And so yeah, so I rendered all of those out at 8K, and then yeah, I don't know. It's like, if you've any any other questions about the thing, I suppose I could just show you quickly my just how I sort of scattered show the assets in 3D Max.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that, and let's see. Let's see. We'll start heading into some Q&A. I don't know, maybe in like five minutes or so.
That's fine. Yeah,
Let's
that's
do that.
absolutely
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Got some questions here that Vincent's been feeding over to me, so we'll hit
Sure.
a Q&A.
Yeah, so you can see here, these are essentially the scatter assets. So you can see this is like you can see sort of how simple the geometry is. So I would take this, and this is like a reference. Wow, it's not meant to have that many things there. But essentially, the way I would model this, like I'll do like one cut on this just so you can see. So I would take this. This is coming directly from Painter. Like I'm just putting cuts into this geometry like this, right? So each one, it doesn't take that long. I would love if there was a procedural way to do it. And then I'm sort of extruding in like this. I don't know if this is going to be slightly incorrect, but then I'm then adding separating the windows. So one thing that's important for effects is that you have like things like windows and brick and frames kind of as separate objects, or at least separate elements. And say this object here would have I would put a symmetry on this object, so that this will have, that's wrong, where's my thing? Oh yeah, so there, that will give that object kind of like depth like that. So now I have this kind of like full, basically full geo, and then I'm applying a chamfer to it as well to give it the edges. But you see that it's kind of a you know, fully 3D piece of 3D, and then these are just the corners. These are the floors again. So these are the walls, and then I probably do just for my own. I'll do like a separate tutorial for kind of how I set it up in Tyflow, and this. Yeah, so that's just kind of it. So you just sort of set that up, and I think I have a layer with just showing the furniture, which is like super simple as well.
And these are basically all of your pieces that then, as you write it through Tyflow, basically build, well, I will say construct the buildings that you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then these are these little doodads here. So that's basically the you know what, I actually, this is actually no, it's this one. Yeah, so you can see there. So see this, you know, beautiful geo. That's the monitors. They look like CRT monitors. So it's a period piece. So, but like at a far distance, and I'll just show you just kind of how that all looks kind of. Let me turn on the one of these objects so you can see. It's the interior. So this is the that's the interior, right? That's what the interior of the office is.
Wow.
The geo is right.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like it's sort of it's quite sort of ugly, but it works. I think I have the corner. Oh yeah, I have a few things turned off on this, and oh yeah. So there you see, there's all the stuff along the windows. and then I've the blinds here. Should turn on. Oh, here's the subject here, right? So there they are, right? So there's the blinds, which are just kind of being sort of offset. It's just a random kind of offset, and then you see the just all the different pieces. And then the one last thing I'll show you, which I think I showed you in the rehearsal, the like if I change the scale of this object, I'll switch over just to one object. So this one just runs a little bit faster. I can just change the scale of this object, and then this will change the scale of the whole system, right? So I can do all these different types, all these different versions of the same building. I can make, if I wanted, I can make the building like super tall, and it will all work. So if I turn off that and then turn on the oh, this might go slow. Anyway, this is going to be a very dense building. But again, like when you get, this is kind of part of trying to keep it as light as possible, because as you get into, if you thinking about doing a city, and you want to have all that detail, you just get into some kind of extraordinarily ridiculous amounts of detail. So you can see all of those floors just kind of fill in.
Yeah. And like you said, this at the very beginning, this was part of your goal to keep things versatile and be able to make changes, and you're able to do that with this workflow.
Yeah. And like, again, the alternate is kind of like saying having all the geo, like say having like, 20, the thing is, even if I had like 30, 40, 50 little objects of books and picture frames and, all those kinds of things, I would still probably have less variation in than I would with this system, because like say back in Designer, like I can output like 2 different versions of that map, and I would have it's just two tiles, it's just 2 materials. So it's it's just kind of makes more sense. I mean, if you're gonna have a hero office that you would need to have the camera kind of zoom in and go inside that office, you would need those sort of detailed assets. But sort of at this scale, I think it works really well. I think I had a slide with just to sort of explain the advantages and disadvantages. This is not a I think here was it. Oh, this is the painter thing. So yes, there are disadvantages to the workflow. It takes a little bit longer at the beginning. There's possible texture stretching. Requires you to be organized, and may not be worth it for small buildings like a single story or a 2-story. You just model it, and then can be complicated. But then the advantage is it's a pure PBR workflow. There's infinite variations, fine control over the surface details, easy to iterate, debug, and update. It saves time at the end, and then you're using the whole tile. You're using 100% of the tile, so it's 100% efficient UVs. And then it encourages you to model clean geo. It renders faster because it's just pure texture. You're not using any kind of custom edge masking and things. Like if you did it the standard way, which would be like modeling the building pieces, then texturing them and trying to like maybe use triplanar mapping within a renderer, then you're using a very complicated material tree that is probably only native to that particular piece of software. It can't get just exported. I could take this whole setup and I can export it and bring it into the Unreal Engine or Maya or whatever, right? And so it render easily export to other DCCs, and then so
And that is incredible, man. It's just awesome. It's been awesome to see this workflow.
Oh, cool.
I
Thank you.
think, Gavin, I think we're going to jump over to the QA, just running
Sure.
a little bit behind schedule. So
No,
I want to
that's
have
okay.
time
Yeah.
for some questions.
Yeah.
But man, thank you very much for presenting this incredible demo, man. I was completely blown away. A lot of great questions in the chat. So here, let me just jump into some of these questions really quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, we have just a little over 10 minutes before we need to close everything out.
Sure.
So let's see here. I'll start up. So one of the questions was coming in at the scene file seems heavy. How long did it take to craft everything from start, like conceptualizing to finish the current stage?
I spoke to Pierre on the 20th of, I think it was like the 22nd of July. So honestly, like I had about 3.5 weeks to do everything.
Wow. Fairly quick turnaround.
Fairly quick turnaround, but you know,
yeah.
but it's kind of like it's using it like I knew how to do it, you know, like so that kind of makes it a big. Some of the stuff like a lot of the stuff I've been doing in Typhoon, I've been kind of developing, like figuring out a lot of the techniques for kind of a long time. It wasn't all like pure R&D, but yeah, it took me about, I'd say about 3.5 weeks, and I'm also working on other freelance at the same time. So, yeah, that guy I'm working for is probably not that happy with me at the moment because it was really fun. It was really fun sort of project to work on, and it kind of like forced me to sort of be efficient, and sort of I learned a lot. So.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. So another question here, what is the UV pass? I think you talked about that when you're in your painter scene with the helicopter, like the windshields and things. You mentioned creating a UV pass for
Oh
V-Ray.
yes, UV, yeah, UV, like UV filter pass. So
Yeah.
So if you see on again, you see it in a lot of reference. I don't know if I can. I don't have this thing open. Yeah, so you see that there's like a UV filter. So sometimes it looks a little bit different. You can see the kind of the bit of the green on here, and you can see the color there. You get this kind of transition from blue to green to it's like a slightly yellow. And I think this sun, right, they get kind of sunburnt in a way, right? You get kind of sun damage on them. And if there's any helicopter pilots, they probably think this looks wrong. But so in my windows here, I have a UV filter. So then this is kind of my base pass. This is getting passed up to it's basically a gradient. So let's see, so I'm just creating a color. I don't know if you can see that, like the color gradient, blue, green, and then slightly yellow to output that. And then I'm creating a custom, I have a custom channel here called reflection color. And so then that is, I don't know if this is answering the question, that's getting passed up to this. And then that map there, or set of maps, is going into the V-Ray reflection color channel.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's slightly different. Different renderers will have a slightly different way of dealing with it. I think some renderers will it'll just take it from the base color pass, but this is the way V-Ray does it.
Yeah. So another question here is how would this work with destruction? I think you did mention something about that, but say the building needs to be, there's a, something crashes into it. It's leveled. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So I mean, again, that's another, like, I'm not officially, I wouldn't consider myself an effects artist. There is I had started to do some a test with like a test with kind of destroying it. I know there's Alan McKay has done a series of videos where he's showing how to destroy a building, but essentially you're just going to load it into another. I mean, you could do it from the same file or the same tie flow graph. But yeah, I'd probably just load it into bake out the geo or cache the geo and then load it into another graph. And then you just start working on breaking it up with Voronoi, and there's different ways. It's something I want to do. I definitely want to have the helicopter flying into it. I mean, if anyone does use 3D Studio Max and they, if they're using TieFlow, which they should be because it's awesome. On the Facebook page, the TieFlow Facebook page, you see some really amazing work being done, and all sorts of stuff. Like this is just one thing that I've been using it for, but you can use it to add destruction. So yeah, you can destroy it. I haven't done the R&D to do it yet, but yeah, I want to.
So with that said, with TieFlow, like another question was, where do you make the randomization of the different squares of the texture? And they're asking, is that done in TieFlow?
Yeah. So the way you do it, I mean, it will do it just it will do it sort of just naturally. Like it'll just do it sort of automatically when you feed that stuff into a you feed all the objects. Like say I have like the way I set it up the building was like I've like west, south, north, east, and then within each building face is receiving the same. It's called an actor. Again, this is used for kind of crowd. This is meant to be used for crowds. I used it for buildings. So in this, let's say actor, close this one. So I have a prop list. So in my prop list, let me go to it here. You can maybe see it here. So this is my main. This is like the main sort of thing, right? So I have an actor, and into the actor goes this prop, and then these then get sort of scattered. Those props then get scattered onto the surface of that building, right? So they become the things. And then, so let's see if I can show you. Do I have this? Oh yeah. I've made that building huge now, so it'll kind of run slower. But yeah, you can just change the seed, right? There's options here to change the seed, and then it'll just change. It'll give you a new version of the same building, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Gavin, I think we'll have time for one more question.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not doing a great job as a host. I was so just enthralled in everything your presentation. Like I wasn't like trying to focus you towards the end. So I was just, paying attention to everything. So
that's okay.
Yeah, man. So we won't get to every question, but let's just hit one more before we have to close. So I apologize everyone for not getting all the questions in. But let's see here. So another one that's coming up. Let's see. Trying to find one here. Okay, here we go. So this one was coming back when you were talking about the windows. Let's see. It says, what way did you do the overlapping glass part of the texture? It says, did you only do that for the roughness map? I think you were talking about the overlaying glass part of the texture.
Overlaying glass. I'm not sure. For the buildings of the helicopter.
I think it was during the building section is when that question came in.
I'm not sure. Like for the glass is essentially. I mean, the glass here is. It's just the same on both sides, right?
Okay.
It's just a shell. So I separate the glass, and I don't know if I can show you here on this object. Let me just isolate this so it'll go a little bit quicker. I don't know why I have all these instanced modifiers on here. Let me just, if I can show you the way this is set up. So yeah, so this is like, say, this beginning geo. It gets the material modifier to give it that. So now it's the corner, so it's material ID 2. then it gets, you can see the way the UV map is doing that. Then this is just the part of the modeling process. So there is with no window. Then I'm doing a symmetry modifier, adding a chamfer. So that was one thing I didn't want to put a chamfer on the glass, right? If you put a chamfer modifier on the actual panes of glass, you just get this weird, the normals go a bit weird, so you don't want that. So then the glass itself has been attached. But if you look at the geo for it, I don't know if this is answering that person's question right. It's really simple. It's just like, it's you know, PlayStation 1 geometry, and it's not it's super simple.
Yeah, the gloss and the reflections really just handled in the roughness map, it looks like.
Yeah, it's just the roughness map. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Gavin. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. We have to start to wrap up right here. So, Gavin, can you go ahead and stop sharing your screen? We'll go back to our camera view. And again, everyone, I apologize for not getting a chance to get into all the questions.
Oh, that's okay.
Man, it was just, there was so much detail there. I didn't want to cut you off earlier with what you were explaining. So, Gavin, thank you very much.
Here, I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, okay. Stop.
Yeah, it's at
share.
the bottom.
Yeah, no, I got it. Okay.
All right, I think Mike's coming out of that now. Okay, perfect. All right, so Gavin, thank you so much. This is going to conclude our stream today. I want to thank everyone for attending. Gavin, thank you for sharing your work and your expertise. I mean, it was really awesome to see your insight into this workflow, man. I tell you, it was mind blowing. It was really great. A lot of great comments in the chat. So just a reminder to everyone that this is recorded. So if you want to go back and watch it, it'll be on demand on our YouTube channel. I think it's up right after the stream ends. So that's great. I also want to just remind everyone that our next stream will be on August 25th, and that's going to be with Spin VFX. They're going to be covering Zombieland movie, as well as the Expanse TV series. So some more VFX focused content heading their way. And one more thing I want to mention here we have a special guest viewer, Gavin. So I believe your mom is watching, right? I forgot where you said she was from.
Ireland. She's back in Ireland. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, awesome. Back in Ireland. So yeah, man. Special hello to your mom, Gavin. Thank you. So really cool. So again, thanks everyone. Take care. Be safe, and we'll see you on the next stream. And one more hint out. Happy birthday, Vincent, man. Thanks for rocking the chat. See you guys. Take care.
Thank you.